Today I'm going to take you through all the steps needed to bake your own bread at home. It's not that difficult. It's a little bit time consuming because you have to wait for the bread to prove and to rise, but the actual making of the bread is not that difficult. So if you've ever fancied making bread and you've been put off by the fact that you think it's too difficult or your bread won't turn out as it should, let's work through these steps together. We'll be taking guidance from Paul Hollywood's book, How to Bake. If you've not got this, I can recommend it. It's extremely good. And we're going to be using his basic white tin loaf recipe, which is just a good standard white loaf, which will be good for making sandwiches, or as I'm going to do with this, I'm going to make some grilled cheese. So that'll be another video that will follow up after this one. So come on, let's see what we've got to do to turn some simple ingredients into really tasty, proper bread. First thing we need to do is measure out our dry ingredients. And we need 400 grams of strong bread flour. Is just over 14 ounces, 14.2. Next thing we need is 7 grams of dried yeast. Just a little bit over, it's fine. And then this goes into the bowl with the flour, but put it over to one side. 8 grams of salt. That in ounces is around about 0.3, it's just less than 0.3 of an ounce. In reality, that says 8 grams. And then that goes in the bowl, but again, over to one side. Don't put it directly onto the yeast, because you might kill the yeast or at least slow it down when it starts to ferment, and that's not what we want. Then we add 25 grams of softened butter. I just put this in the microwave for 5 seconds just to soften it. So we need around about 250 ml, which is 8 fluid ounce of cool water. And in his book, Paul Hollywood says that cool water is around about 15 degrees Celsius. So this is coming out of my tap, 17, which is 63 Fahrenheit. So you want around about 15 Celsius, which is going to be around about 60 Fahrenheit. So that's close enough. And you want to add around about 3/4 of this. Don't add it all, because you might need a little bit more, you might need a little bit less. It all depends on your flour. Some flour takes more water, some takes less. So So I've nearly put all that water in, but I think that's about where I need it to be. So it's soft, but not too sticky. I think if I add that little bit of water, even though it's only a drop, that'll probably be a little bit too sticky. So now we're ready to put this onto an oiled surface and get kneading. A little bit of olive oil. We need to knead. You want to be kneading this, your dough for around about 10 minutes until it starts to go really smooth and stretchy. I've been kneading this now for around about 8 minutes, and it's starting to get the texture that we need, which is smooth. I have picked a couple of hard bits out. I think they must have been from the flour. So if you do feel a hard lump in there, just take it out. But I think that's what we're wanting. It's strong, but it's smooth and pliable. If you're not sure if you've kneaded it long enough, I would err on the side of caution and do at least 10 minutes. So now we start the waiting game. You want to take a clean bowl, put a little bit of olive oil in there, just rub it around on the inside so that your bread dough doesn't stick. And in it goes. So we're going to leave this, we're going to cover it with a tea towel, and we're going to leave it in a warm place for a minimum 2 hours. I won't even look at this until an hour, probably 2 hours to be truthful. So it's almost 1 o'clock, so it's probably going to be 3 o'clock before I look at this. And we want it to double in size. So this is where the yeast is going to start to release carbon dioxide, and that causes the bread dough to rise. My bread has had just over 2 hours. It's had about 2 hours and 15 minutes. And that's what we're looking like. It's more than doubled in size, I would say. I'll put a side-by-side picture in of what it looked like before, but I think this is now ready for the next step. And the next step is to knock all the air out of this and to shape it into into the loaf. And I am going to bake mine in a tin. You have the choice. You can make one large loaf, or you could use 2 smaller tins if you wish to do that. But I'm going to make one large one. So we need a another drop of olive oil in there just to a drop of olive oil in there just to stop your bread sticking. This is a non-stick pan, so it shouldn't stick anyway, but better safe than sorry. And then we want a lightly floured surface. We turn our bread out. And you keep turning your bread in as we slowly shape it. Make sure you get all the air out, technically not air, carbon dioxide that we got released by the fermenting yeast, but yeah, so you want to make sure all that comes out, and then you want to make it into a loaf shape as best you can. It's going to rise again, but you want to make sure that you've got your seam underneath. Into your tin. You want to take a plastic bag, and you tie a loose knot in it so that the bread dough is protected on the outside, but the plastic is not touching the bread. And then you leave that for around about an hour until it's doubled in size again. So it's now 320 almost, so 420, this will be going in the oven. You want to preheat your oven to 220 Celsius or 425 Fahrenheit, and you want to put a roasting tin in there, and we're going to add some boiling water to it. That's to create some steam in the oven. Carefully dust the top with a little bit of flour. And in the book, Paul Hollywood tells you to slash the top of the loaf with a sharp knife. But in the picture that he puts in the book, he's not done that. So I'm guessing it's optional, and I choose not to do that also. So when your oven is ready and you've got your steam bath in there, this wants to be baked for 30 minutes or until it's cooked, but 30 minutes usually works pretty well. So when your half an hour is up, you can take a look. The best way to tell if it's cooked is to if it sounds hollow like that, it's cooked, because we do not want a soggy bottom. Put that onto a wire rack and let it cool.